Well, good evening, everyone. It is June the 14th, 9 o'clock, looks like. Well, almost. Seconds before 9. We're early. How is everybody doing tonight? See, we got a couple people in here. Dutch Off-Grid Homesteading, good to see you. Lorella, you're here.
I'm here.
Jujubi. Brandon's Outdoor Adventures. Let's see. Allie Oakley looks like she was in earlier anyway. I don't know if she's still in here right now. Greeky Gardens is in. So how is everybody doing on this? At least what's for here. It's a warm, muggy Monday evening. So
it is incredibly muggy in southern Missouri as well.
So I got a gal from Misery over here that said she wanted to be on the show, and so we have her. We've had her before, and she's got a long name for her channel. It's called Lorella Plan B Orchard and Farm. So we're going to have to ask her what happened to Plan A. That's all I can figure. So anyway, here she is. Lorella, say hi to everybody.
Hi, everyone. I'm so glad to be here tonight. Thanks for having me on, Daryl.
Oh, you're quite welcome. I'm just trying to set the volumes here, so go ahead and talk some more.
Okay. I am thrilled to be here. I had so much fun. The last time I was on, I actually had a different channel name, even longer than the one I have now. It was Lorella, Not a Farm Girl, a Homestead Adventure. So my channel has gone through several variations of its names over time. But basically, I kept hearing, you sure look like a farm girl now, when I was not a farm girl. And after a while, I kind of took a look around at everything I was doing and was like, yeah, I kind of am a farm girl. But our channel, our farm is our Plan B Orchard and Farm. So I just decided to go with that so that everybody would identify. And then my name is hard, Lorella. People don't know how to say it. They don't know how to spell it. And so including it in the channel name just made sense.
So Lorella, I think I'm saying that correct.
You are.
You're originally from California?
I was in California for about 20 years before moving to Missouri. But I grew up all up and down the West Coast, and I went to college in Louisiana. And then after we got married, we were in the Los Angeles area. So we were very urban for almost 20 years prior to moving to Missouri.
Well, I'm very curious. What on earth did you do in the Los Angeles area? What was your profession at that time?
My profession was and still is sign language interpreter. So I homestead weekends, evenings, and I own my own business, so I try to schedule myself 1 or 2 days off every week. But I do a lot of interpreting in courts, medical offices. I'm not too far from Branson, so I do Branson shows during the season. I sub in the schools and when their interpreters are out. So it's a very challenging profession, but it's also great in the fact that I am in charge of my own schedule and be on the farm. You know, I'm working towards being on the farm pretty much full time, but right now it's probably about 50-50 working on farm and off farm. And my husband, Chris, who some of you will see in my videos from time to time, he actually worked for Fox Television Studios and he was a satellite engineer. So we were very city. And so there you go. There's your Plan B. We never thought when we were young and in our early 20s and got married that we would end up on a farm someday.
Well, I have to ask, with your profession as a interpreter, am I saying that correctly?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you able to interpret? Is there different sign languages for different, say, like Japanese people or Chinese people?
Yes. So Sign languages developed in their own countries where deaf people were before there was communication around the world. So just like regular languages did. And surprisingly, American Sign Language came from France, not from England. So the UK uses a completely different sign language than we do. And Canada's is pretty similar, but Australia's is completely different. So even though we're all English speaking nations, we don't all speak the same sign language.
Well, that's pretty incredible. Are you bilingual in your? I mean, can you do other languages?
Nope, just the two. I'm fluent in two languages: sign language and English.
Okay, and so sign language that's actually considered a second language.
Right. So the grammar and structure of sign language is different than English, and it's also a visual spatial language. So I kind of like to compare it to books and movies. A book and a movie can tell the same story, and they can both be equally impactful, but the book is 100% reliant on word choices. And in a movie, you have the dialogue, but you also see things and you hear the wind so in sign language, there's words, but there's also movement and different things. So it's a completely different grammatical structure and language structure altogether.
Well, I see that Build on the Rock Homestead, who was in the chat here, said that they had American Sign Language in college. So is this something that's kind of an elective thing in most colleges? And is it universal across the United States?
Yes. So there's going to be regional words, just like we have you guys and youans and you all and you. So in sign language, you're going to have some regional differences, but basically sign language across the United States is American Sign Language. So good for you on the Rock Homestead. Hopefully you'll get a chance to use it now and then. A lot of high schools have it, and many colleges and universities offer it as a second language now.
So is there accents in sign language? Really?
For sure. Yep.
So
and sometimes the way people speak in English, so New Yorkers tend to be kind of brisk and in your face and fast-paced talkers, whereas in the South, they slow things down and they take their time and they draw. A lot of that stuff bleeds over into the sign language too.
Well, I think that's just really interesting. That's fascinating. So anyway, you did this for a number of years. You continue to do this now that you moved.
So about 30 years I've been doing this, yeah.
But what was the catalyst that got you out of California?
Well, there's a lot that plays into that. California has a lot of regulations.
Yep.
And the laws were becoming more and more restrictive. And there wasn't a lot of space. And so my husband was the first one who wanted to leave because he kind of saw that if there was any kind of emergency, any natural disaster, any emergency of any type, that there's too many people for everybody to get out of there, and that there aren't enough people prepared to sit through an emergency for everyone to be safe. So he was kind of wanting to get out of Dodge a while before I was. And then in mid-2012, we took a road trip and we went, it was a 17-day, huge road trip all the way down through Texas and Missouri and back up and around. And my parents had retired into Missouri, and my dad's health was declining. He had dementia. And so that's when I finally felt like I was ready to leave. I used to tease him and say that when we moved, I would be grabbing a palm tree and he would have to pull me away from it because I really liked the fact that it was sunny and 70 year round. I really liked the fact that we were half an hour from the beach, an hour from the mountains, half an hour from theme parks, and everything that you could want any restaurant, any ethnic food, museums, arts, everything. That's the advantage of living near an urban center, is all of those type of things. There's a reason there's a lot of people who live in Southern California. So I was not in a hurry to leave. But then while we were on this big road trip, the fact that my dad's health was declining, and then we went through Colorado where my cousin was living, and she was telling me about this family that she knew that had moved from Southern California, and they were doing what they called gentleman farming. And so, being the smart ass that I am, I'm like, so they're wearing waistcoats and top hats? What is gentleman farming? Okay. And she said, well, they're trying to earn enough money off their farm to create a living, but they're not a big farm corporation. And they're not just a hobby farm. They're somewhere in between. And so they had, they were doing goat's milk soap, and they had interns come in they were near a city that teenagers would come in and intern for the summer and things like that. And that just intrigued me. And I was like, this sounds kind of cool. And my husband was like, yeah, I've been trying to get you to do this for years. It's called homesteading. I was like, what? What's homesteading? So that summer on this drive back, through Vegas and through all the states from Colorado to LA, I just thought, what if we did this? How much would it really take for us to pick everything up and move? And so we did, and we moved onto my parents' property. My dad has since passed, so that was really a blessing for us that we were able to care for him there at home all the way through. And I think that is an important thing for my children to have experienced. It was hard for them being teenagers to leave and come out to this tiny little town. But I think that sometimes it's important to learn that life isn't all about you, and that when people you love need you, you take care of them. So
I would wager that you have no regrets, none.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct.
Yeah.
And it was a huge shot in the dark, because I had never farmed. When I was little, for about 5 years, we lived on about 5 acres, and we had chickens and a garden, but I don't remember ever helping with any of that. And I think later when I asked my mom, she said my dad grew up on a dairy farm where he had to get up and milk every morning and basically do everything all the time, and that he didn't want his kids to be burdened with that. And so in trying to save us the burden, I also didn't learn how to garden or take care of animals or anything. And so leaving the city and moving to the farm, leaving the beach that I loved, was a huge gamble. Am I going to hate it out there? Am I going to get bored in a week and want to, run back to the city? But absolutely not. I love it more than I ever knew I could. It's like, this is what I was born to do.
Well, let's have no mistake that dairy farming is not homesteading.
Correct. That's absolutely correct.
Yeah. I mean, you may be a homesteader and be a dairy farmer, but dairy farming is not homesteading. I mean, that is a wickedly rough job. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
So how much property are you on? How much did you move to? I'm sure you had a very huge blessing there, being able to go to some property.
Yes. So the property itself is nearly 30 acres, but about half of it is a rocky hillside on the other side of a creek, and not really accessible except to deer. We can get across there sometimes when the creek is real low, but so there's about 15 usable acres. And my mom has her house, and then we're down the hill from my mom. But we do all of our homesteading on 2.5 acres that she from her, where we built our house. So our house is included in that 2.5 acres. And on that 2.5 acres, I have cows. I have pigs every other year. I keep rabbits, chickens. I have about 85 hens right now, if I have the count right. We have ducks. I have a big kitchen garden, and then I have my new sunshine garden, which is pumpkins and melons and squash and sunflowers and all the fun stuff.
Okay, but what was your first
Yeah.
animal? What was your first animal? What
Our
was
first-
what was your gateway animal?
Sadly, it was goats. And I say sadly because I did not know enough about caring for them. And one of them, we lost one really early on. And then the other one was a boy. And because I had such a hard loss with the first one, we decided to wait on doing goats. And then now, after time, I realized that I actually am not on farm enough to commit to daily milking, so we don't have goats. I think now I could take care of them and do a good job of it, and I know a lot of more resources than I did. But I had in my mind that I was going to farm lavender and raise goats, and then I would have like all the lavender lotions and soaps and things like that. And now I do neither of those things.
See, we got a few more people that have stopped in here. Wide Family Farm has joined the discussion area here. Rosanna, hello to you. T-Hand 141 Homestead, good evening to you. So, any of you folks have any questions? Please put them in all caps well, I'll tell you what. Let's do this. Let's do something. Hold on. We're getting there. Okay.
Yes, Hall Homestead says goats are a lot of work for that to be a first animal. Yeah, that probably wasn't my wisest decision. My second animal was chickens, and I'm very successful with them, and I have a thriving egg business, so I didn't give up.
Okay, the phone lines are open, folks. If you'd like to call in, ask Lorella a question in person, or just say hi. I have another question. You're in Missouri. Are you going to be at the Life Conference? Off Grid with Doug and Stacy's Life Conference in Hannibal, Missouri?
I'm not going to be there. Well, I don't think I am. I'll have to look it up and see when it is.
I bet one of our mods can throw that date in there. I don't have it at my fingertips, and I don't have enough fingers to do this here tonight. So, but
we miss Sherry. You'll have to tell her we miss her.
So, Bent Over Acres, hello. Glad to see you made it here this evening. What is your favorite thing and most dreaded thing about goats? This is from T-Hand 141 Homestead.
Actually, I said we don't have goats, but there are two goats on the farm that my mom keeps to be weed eaters. And they're both little boys. I forget what you call a fixed boy goat. Favorite thing is they're really cute. They're fun to watch play. Most dreaded thing is if there's a way out, they will find it. We seem to be getting the goats back in their pens pretty often, more than our other animals.
Okay, Hall Homestead has jumped in here and says that in their opinion, chicken and rabbits are the best beginning animals.
Yeah, so I think one thing that I try to always look at everything as a learning experience more than as a failure. And one of the things that I learned from having goats was that I really need to do more research before I get animals, because I had pets, but farm animals are a little bit harder to keep than pets, I have found. And so before I got my rabbits, I really watched lots of YouTube channels and I read lots of things. I did a lot of research, and my husband also put in a great plan for us. And because I wanted to do everything all at once, and he limited me to one new venture per year. So I focused on the garden and I got chickens. And then once I had those down pretty good, then I think we got bees next. And then we got rabbits after that, or maybe cows. I kind of forget the order now. But so, especially because we were still working off farm so much, He wanted to make sure we got a really good handle. Oh, and we got pigs pretty early on too. But just each year we have added one new big venture. So last year I tripled the size of my garden, but I didn't get any new kinds of animals, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So I see a question about how do I have a great egg business and how do you keep customers coming back?
Right.
So that is actually one of my favorite topics to talk about. I love having an egg business. And in fact, I actually have a wait list for customers usually. I have more customers than I can supply eggs to. And my customers come back by word of mouth.
Are you taking lessons from the local lumber yard?
I'm sorry?
Are you taking lessons from the local lumber yard?
No, I haven't raised my prices yet, but maybe I'll need to. Feed prices keep going up. So what I have found is we kind of say on our farm that eggs are the gateway farm fresh produce, because a lot of people are willing to buy a dozen eggs before they're willing to buy half a beef or half a pork or something like that. And so we package our eggs in egg cartons that we stamp with our farm name. So I think presentation makes a difference. It adds value. The cartons don't cost very much each. They're, probably 10 or 20 cents each when you buy them in bulk. And I don't know exactly, so don't quote me on that. But, they're not expensive relatively. And I think it says that you believe in your product more than if you're reusing grocery carton stores or grocery store cartons. So that's one thing I do.
So do you have people come to your property to get the eggs?
No, I deliver my eggs. So hang on a sec. Sorry, I got a little bit of congestion. It's allergy season. One thing that I do is I have customers in Springfield, which is the nearest city to us, where I do a lot of sign language work. So I will schedule my egg deliveries on a day I'm already in that town. So I'm not making an extra trip.
Okay.
So I'll put a cooler in the back of my car and ice packs and put the eggs in there and deliver them throughout the day. And so basically, I started with an excess of eggs. And so I just asked my friends and colleagues, would they like a dozen eggs? And oftentimes I'll give the first dozen for free and let people try them. And I also price my eggs pretty competitively. Here in Missouri, every farm around has eggs, and you can get eggs for $2 a dozen. I deliver for $3 a dozen. So that seems, when you're delivering and you're counting in your cost of fuel and everything, that could be pretty, like you could lose money. But if I deliver to all my customers in one day, and it takes me about an hour of delivery time, I usually sell 12 to 15 dozen eggs at a week in Springfield, and then another 8 or 10 in Ava, near where I live. So when I go to Springfield, in an hour, I'm making $30 to $45 for my time delivering. Okay. That's not the time it took me to get there. It's not counting the time it took me to package the eggs and collect them, but the actual delivery time. And that makes sense because I'm there already. So then once I have loyal egg customers, then when I need more customers, like I just bought 25 more chicks this spring because I want all the egg colors of the rainbow. Then when they start laying, I'll just send out a text to all my customers and say, hey, do you have any friends who might be interested? I've got a couple spaces opening up. And I tried to word it to make it sound like it's an exclusive. They're getting the first chance. There's only a couple spots. Even if I need 10, I'm going to say a couple spaces are opening up. Sure. But, to make it appealing. And
absolutely.
So far, I'm 7 years down the road now, and the first year was the hardest. But now like I said, I usually have a wait list. I have people contact me and ask if there's availability. The other thing is that my customers don't have to buy eggs every week. So I send out a text each individually to each customer, and I say, I'm delivering eggs on Thursday. Do you need any? And then they'll answer back, I'll take a dozen or 2 dozen or 3. And some people buy eggs every week, but some people buy them as needed. And I find that suits the American lifestyle, because we're used to being able to just run to the store when
Sure.
we need it and not have to commit to it. And so that helps. And then the other thing that works really well is that now I have a customer base. So then when we're raising butcher hogs or a beef or veggies or flowers, then I can say this summer, I'm also going to be having flower deliveries on the same day I do egg deliveries. If you're interested, let me know and I'll text you. So then the same day I would do it, I would deliver little bouquets of flowers. So then you have customers already who want your other products. I saw a question about delivery fee.
Yes.
Wide Family Farm asked that. I don't charge for delivery because I'm already going to town anyway for my other business. So for me, it makes sense to do that. And I think somebody mentioned Joel Salatin, said I'm thinking like Joel Salatin when I say eggs are the gateway product. And in his book, which is amazing, You Can Farm, everybody should own that. Mine has like little sticky notes all the way through it. He says that you really should try to live, I think he says within 20 miles or 30 miles of a bigger city so that you have a bigger customer base. I'm actually over an hour from Springfield, which is my nearest city, which isn't even a huge city. It's just a big town. So it would not make sense for me to do those deliveries if I was not already going there anyway for business.
Sure.
So that's something that you kind of have to weigh in.
And you've also incorporated, you say, some animal products when you have those.
Yes.
Okay. Do you do other things like make soap,
Not yet.
balms, and I know that you have bees, or
Yes.
and so honey, is that another
Yes.
product?
I don't even have to deliver my honey to the city because the last time I had honey available, I put it on Facebook and sold out within 30 minutes just by not even on a marketplace or a group, just on my personal Facebook, and said, I'm only selling this to people who are local to me. And it sold out really fast. Honey is a huge, huge product. But I have not yet made a profit on bees. Bee equipment is expensive. Bee hives are expensive, and bee colonies multiply themselves, and you're constantly needing to build new hives. And so hopefully this year, fingers crossed, I might turn a profit, but I haven't yet, and I've been doing it about 4 years.
Okay, and I saw that somebody put in here that the Life Conference is August 1st and 2nd. That's a Sunday, Monday.
I'll have to check it out.
And it's in It's in Hannibal, Missouri.
I'm going to open it in a new tab so I can check it out after this.
And this is, I'm going to use, I'm not sure if this is the 4th year for it or not. It's at least the 3rd year. And the hosting channel is Off Grid with Doug and Stacy. It is a fabulous deal. Absolutely fabulous.
I'll have to check it out. I would like to. I wanted to. I'm trying to remember why I didn't go the last time. It was like a conflict in schedules. But yeah, I should try to make that. Especially, I used to do Baker Creek's spring planting conference every year, and then they did not have it last year or this year.
Right.
So this would be a good alternative for that.
Well, of course, this is just different.
Right.
It's different, but he's got some very well-known speakers. He's got a fellow that's just excellent on bees. So I don't know if you have any, but he also deals with horizontal hives rather than
right.
Langstrom.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. He's actually from the area where I live.
Okay. So anyway, just glancing back over here along the River Homestead. Good evening.
Hello, Christy.
Good to see you here. Christy Betts, hello. And if I've missed you, I apologize. CB, see if there's anybody else in here that I've missed. I'm sure there is. And if I missed you, I'm sorry. Just stick your hand up and say, hey, Daryl, you missed me. So, hey, the phone lines are open. The number is scrolling across the top of your screen. Don't be bashful. Don't be shy. Just call the number. I gave you a couple of different numbers. Just call the number. Most of y'all all have cell phones. I'm sure it doesn't cost you anything to dial those numbers. Put in the meeting ID. Just follow the prompts. Put in the meeting ID, and put in the password when prompted, and we will get you on the air here. And Lorella can answer your most desired question.
I will do my best. I can talk a little bit about when I changed my channel name. I also changed the focus of my channel.
Sure.
Because over the years, so I've been on YouTube now for 7 years, and going on 8 this summer. And in the beginning, there was so much I didn't know, which is why I was not a farm girl. So it was kind of like watch me learn from my mistakes and celebrate my successes with me. And I, through learning and growing and making videos, it turns out that what people really come to my videos for are like the little nuggets, like educational nuggets, like little things that I've learned that I share. And so now my focus is about helping people take incremental steps towards homesteading, because a lot of us are like me. We're coming from an urban lifestyle and we're moving to the country, and there's so much information out there. For me, it was paralyzing. When I wanted to know how to garden, there's so many different ways to garden, and everybody has the right way to do it. And I almost couldn't move forward because I wanted to do everything just right. And so now I really focus on taking small steps and talking about specific little things that, you can do, and helping people figure out what their next step is also on their homesteading journey. So if that is what you guys are interested in seeing, then mine is the channel for you to hang out with. And I see Along the River Homestead. Every time I see Lorella, I think of her video where she was freaking out about the corn losing its parts and thinking it was bugs. Yeah. So, I still have those new moments where I'm like, what is this? What is, and it was just the corn seeds, the little corn thing.
Golden moments. We've had a couple more people stop in. Old New Mountain Homestead, thanks for stopping in. Old Alabama Gardener, welcome. Glad to see you in here. There's a garden king person.
Yes, with much knowledge. Thank you for sharing all of your years of experience and wisdom with us. We appreciate it.
Well, Lorella, let's talk about your gardens a little bit. We've talked about some of your animals. So
okay.
You have multiple gardens, or just?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I have 2 places where I have gardens. So I have a kitchen garden, which I expanded last year, and it's 25 feet by 75 feet. And it has arches and trellises. And last year I planted all the wonderful things in it. I had a beautiful garden. And then I also have what I'm calling the Sunshine Garden, which is every other year I have pigs in a certain area. And so I put the garden there. It's this nice, big, sunny, open plot. And the plan was to have both gardens. I've been going this year. My husband had to have surgery unexpectedly. He's fine now, but that was in April. And so the 6 weeks leading up to it and the 6 weeks leading after it in recovery time took out about 3 months of my year, right in the middle of gardening season. So I had 300 plants started that didn't ever get in the ground. And then in my kitchen garden, the soil was nice and fertile and the weeds came up, and I have weeds up to my waist out there right now. So I am just plodding along I'm pulling a weed out and I'm putting a plant in and just taking it little by little. So I don't have as beautiful and lush gardens as I have had last year, but maybe before fall is over, I'll have a fall garden. And that's one of the good things about where I live. I live in Missouri, southern Missouri, which is a zone 6B hardiness. And so we actually oftentimes have a better fall garden than spring, less bug pressure, less heat. So maybe by fall I'll have both the gardens looking really pretty. But right now I have one that's looking really sweet where my squashes and things are planted. And then my kitchen garden is kind of giving me not nightmares exactly, but a little bit of overwhelm. So I'm trying to just take it one area at a time.
So do you have a greenhouse of any type, high tunnel or low tunnels, or?
I don't. I do seed starting indoors. So I have one of those 5-shelf racks with grow lights, and then I transfer them from there to my front porch to grow into little strong seedlings before going in the garden. I do have plans to put in cold frames. At this time, I don't have plans for a high tunnel or greenhouse yet. I would love to. I would love to have one of those really pretty greenhouses made out of old windows. But it just has to come when we can.
I see we have somebody in here, Hall Homestead. They're in Southwest Missouri. So. They didn't say exactly
hello.
where, but it's Southwest Missouri. So Hall Homestead, I guess we'll throw the bone out your way here. On Hannibal, Missouri, that's east side somewhere. I don't know if it's north. Is it right in the middle?
North.
Is it right in the middle, or is it
north of us?
Okay, but that's in the area where Off-Grid with Doug and Stacy live, and they have the conference coming up here, August 1st and 2nd. It's a must-see. Daryl looks like he has a cow in the living room. A cow.
Yeah, that's the picture from my title section of my YouTube. It's right under your picture on the screen.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's
our cow, Flannel, who's now 2 years old. Our heifer.
Yeah, what I do, for those of you that maybe have never noticed, is I combine our banner with whoever our guest is, and I use that for the thumbnail on the Monday Night Live shows. So that just happens to be a cow right here, kind of under me and beside Lorella, underneath Smudge.
All right, so Hall Homestead is way far southwest, just north of Bentonville, Arkansas. Yep, that's pretty far from me.
Okay. Searching Sabrina. Good to see you in the chat here this evening. I don't know why I'm thinking Arkansas, but maybe not for her. So, what's your biggest failure in gardening?
Oh, you name it, I've done it. All my tomatoes got big and split. Last year I had all the beetles overrunning the garden, squash bugs, and there were these really great beetles. What are they called? Like something stinging beetles that not stinging. I forget, but if they touch you, they secrete a substance that makes your skin burn. So bugs, tomatoes. I planted tons and tons of potatoes and didn't get much of a harvest. I had a great onion harvest, but then I could never get them dried out enough to store. overwatering, underwatering. What haven't I done wrong?
Well, I'm assuming that you've learned from all those.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah, for sure.
you got those checked off in the book.
That's right.
So, what's your favorite thing to grow?
Squash.
Squash.
I love butternut squash, especially.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's the first time that I've ever asked that question and gotten the answer of squash. 9 times out of 10 is tomatoes.
Yeah, I would actually admit, as I'm probably not supposed to say this, but I don't like tomatoes. I don't like them.
Oh.
I grow them for my customers, but not for ourselves. So
Well,
I know, like everybody's favorite garden, fresh out of the garden food, but not mine.
I'm not big on fresh tomatoes, but I like the processed product.
Yeah, I like this is fine.
Yeah, the tomato sauce,
Yeah.
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 So we can do all that. With your 2.5 acres that you have,
Mm-hmm.
and if you take the gardens out of it, what is left for, I'm going to say, pasture land or whatever for your
Right.
animals?
At it. So we have, I mean, I don't, probably, if we take the house and the gardens out, maybe 2 acres, maybe just over 2 acres. And it's paddocks for rotational grazing for our cattle. And then there is a pasture that's about 8 acres that my mom has mowed for hay. So we are blessed that she provides us with free hay.
Oh.
And then the other goes, or some amount goes to the person who does the mowing. So that is nice. We would not be able to keep all of our cows on the amount of land we have without hay over winter.
Sure.
So that's a huge blessing to us. Even though we don't, technically that's not our land, it's nice that we get the hay from it.
How many head of cattle do you have?
Right now we have 6.
6.
So
okay.
we have 2 brand new babies. They're cousins and they were born about a month apart. One is less than a week old, and then the one that's about a month old, we named her Rosebud. And we haven't decided on a name for the younger one, but so far his name is Chuck, like Chuck Roast.
And didn't you say you did pigs every other year?
Right. So we raise butcher pigs, and we'll usually get 3 or 4, and then we will keep 1 or 2 for our freezer and then sell the rest.
So is this a pig year? Just curious.
Nope. This is a sunshine garden year. So the garden is in the space where the pigs were last year.
Okay. I was going to ask how you come up with these names for your gardens, but
Actually, that's a great question, because I have been calling it the pig garden for about 5 months since I decided to plant it. And I hated that name, but I couldn't, it's just what naturally came out, the pig garden. And then last week, one of my friends came over, Kathy, and she was looking at the property. She's also a gardener, so she was checking out my gardens. And when she got home, she's like, I think your pig garden is going to be beautiful, AKA the sunshine garden. And I was like, oh, that's so much better. So that's how we came up with that name. And something that I have learned about myself in gardening is that I need whimsy and curved lines in my garden, which is kind of weird because for me, it's weird because I am a pretty linear thinker, and I am pretty business minded, and I'm pretty like, go, let's get it done. But when I had a garden that I tried to do like a market garden with rows of veggies, I did not enjoy being in it and tending it. And then last year, when I set up my kitchen garden and expanded it, and I put in arches and I put in curved pathways, and I put in little flowers here and there, I found that I loved being in my garden, and it became my favorite place to be. And so this year, when I made my sunshine garden, and actually that's my newest video, so if anybody wants to check it out afterwards, where I'm doing squash and sunflowers and other kind of flowers and melons, I decided to make some whimsy in that garden as well. So I have put a little teepee right in the middle of it, and then I have curving paths that are lined by sunflowers that lead you to the teepee, and then I planted sunflowers and then corn around it. So hopefully those will grow up, and then it'll be like this little hidden gem where you come through the garden and you are led down this winding path, and you come around the corner and here's this little hidden flower teepee in the middle of a garden. So that's something that I would encourage people. If something on your farm is a chore that is not enjoyable, like if it's just work and it doesn't bring you pleasure in the doing, then I would suggest that maybe you consider dropping that item and changing it to something else, or see if there's something you can change about that chore or task so that it becomes enjoyable. Because I know that it's important to grow what you eat, and we provide this last year was the first year that we have not had to purchase any meat. We've provided all of our own meat off of our farm. We're not quite there in the garden yet, but we're working towards that. And that's an important part of it. But for me, the joy in the doing is also equally important. I want to enjoy where I live. I want to look forward to coming home. I don't want to be driving home and think, now I have to go, weed the garden. I want to be driving home and go, I can't wait to get home and get out in the garden. And so for me, that meant adding whimsy. And it may not be that way for you, but I would just throw that little nugget out there. That's something that I've learned in these last few years.
So what type of gardening, what is your gardening method if you had to describe it? Is it lasagna gardening, square foot gardening, back to Eden gardening? Just throw it in the ground and let it grow?
Yes. So I started, my intentions in the beginning were to do back to Eden garden with wood chip mulch. And I had a pile of wood chip mulch in my garden that where our garden was pasture. Where our house is, our whole thing was down in the middle of a pasture, and weeds and grass grew up through my wood chip pile. Missouri, we get a lot of rain, and we have really, really strong weeds and grass. And no matter what I've put down, cardboard, mulch, all different kinds of mulch, old rotted hay, really thick, old straw, really thick, wood chips, I still have had weeding problems. So I have ended up using landscaping fabric, which I never thought I would use, but it really helps. So in my garden last year, about half of it has a landscape fabric, and that half does not have nearly the kind of weeds that the other half does. The other half of it, I had raised beds, like mounds. Mm-hmm. If any, Jean-Martin Fordin, I can't say his name, in Canada, the French guy that he does mounds, like raised beds without borders, I guess is kind of how I would describe them. Where I plant things like radish and carrots, things that you don't really work well with fabric, because you scatter them. That's where all my weeds are. And then lamb's quarter. I don't know if you guys know about lamb's quarter. So it's a great foraging herb that when it's young and tender is kind of like spinach. Right. But the ones in my garden are like 3.5 feet tall, and they turn into little woody trees if you don't pull them out. They start out as these little tiny shoots. So I think that I've decided that things like carrots and radishes and beets are going to be grown in containers so that I can put landscape fabric down and the rest of it. But then around the landscape fabric, I do borders with rocks and wood and try to add in some things. Oh, I would describe the gardening style of the garden I want would be a potager garden.
Okay.
So, do you know about that? Have you heard of that?
No. But I'm gonna look it up now since you mentioned it.
It's kind of what you would think of like English cottage garden. So, where there's a mixture of stone and wood and brick and metal and curving lines and flowers and edibles all grown in together. And interestingly enough, I had seen the word in print before I ever heard it spoken, and it's spelled Potager. So in one of my videos, I was talking about how I want to have a potager garden, and I kept saying it that way over and over. And then at some time, I was watching a YouTube video, and somebody said potager garden. I was like, oh, that's how you pronounce that word. It's not a potager garden.
Well, maybe it is. Maybe they just had it wrong.
No, I'm pretty sure they were right and I was wrong.
So no, that's fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. Do you grow sweet corn?
I tried to grow sweet corn. Did not do well with it, but I planted more this year. So I'll say in faith, yes, I'm growing sweet corn this year.
Okay. That's something that it's just, to me, it's easy to grow. And all that. It's just, it takes up so much room to get a decent
I've got the space for it. So space isn't an issue, especially just, enough for our family. And I love fresh sweet corn. I mean, love it. But I've got to find a way to keep those corn worms out. And then we also get corn rust in Missouri. So that's another thing I had to deal with, which is a fungus.
Well, describe your house for us. Is this an old farmhouse type thing that you're living in, or is this more of a modern house that's
It's
redone?
New construction. We are actually building it, and we have video playlists on our channel, so you can watch the construction. It's a red metal barn style house, and it's 2 floors, and what I would call the wings of the barn. One side of that would be the master suite, and then the other side has our front porch and a shop and a storm shelter. So we built a storm shelter into our house because we do live in Tornado Alley in Missouri. And we have recently we put in our kitchen island, and we've done a lot of the building ourselves. We hired out like electrical and plumbing and things like that, but we've done a lot of the building ourselves. And the most recent build thing we did was a big rustic kitchen island where we went to the lumber mill before prices started going and we got raw railroad ties. And then my father-in-law built I don't know what you would call it, a little guide, I guess, out of wood. And it used his chainsaw to cut those down to the size we wanted. So they look real rough hewn. And those are the sides. And then I did, I forget the method is called. It's a Japanese word where you burn the wood to harden it. And I did that I was out there with the torch, and then those are the sides. And then the top, we used pine, and we put it through a planer and made the top. So it's 4.5 feet by like 6.5 feet or something like that. It's a huge kitchen island. So really proud of that.
Yeah, and you have a video on that. I'm sure I saw that. Yep, you have a video on that. So, whose idea was it to build a house?
My mom's, actually.
Oh.
So when we moved from California, unfortunately, we moved after the housing bubble crash. And so when we sold our California house, we were upside down. So we walked away with no money out. So it was a good time to move because of my father's health, but it was the wrong time as far as housing goes. So we had a little bit of money, and we were looking to buy a place, but we just couldn't find anything we really loved. And so my mom offered to let us build on her property. So that's what we did. But I would say now, looking back, and I think Chris would agree, that we should have built smaller, because it's still not done, and we're 7 years in an unfinished house. So I'm ready to have the master bath done, and I'm ready to have walls on all the rooms, and that it would be nice.
Okay. Do you and Chris have children?
We do. We have 2 daughters, Leslie and Carter, and they are featured in many of my earlier videos, but now they are both grown. So Leslie is at a Christian school in Kansas City, and Carter is studying aerospace engineering in Rolla, Missouri. So I'm lucky to still have them in state, and they come home often, but they don't live at home anymore.
Do you foresee them in the future following a homestead type environment?
I don't know. I really don't know. They both kind of like city life and beach life. And that's okay. But, I do know that if times got tough, they know they have a place to come, and they know how to work the land, and they know how to work with animals. And they still, every time they come home, they're more than happy to come out and help. And they jump right in without being asked. So they've got the skills they need, should they need them. But I think right now, I don't see that in their immediate future. But, I didn't see it in my future either. So things could change.
Yeah. Yeah, things change in a hurry sometimes. So what's next on your agenda for Laurel?
Oh, that's a good question. Right now, I am really trying to get the garden planted in the ground. I have about half my seedlings left. So I still have about 100, 150 seedlings to get in the ground. So that is my next thing currently. I'm trying to think if we have a next thing that we want to do. I kind of told my husband the other day that I didn't think I had any new ventures I wanted to add to the farm. That next year I was going to really focus on improving my garden and just making it better. And it's kind of neat because when I made the Sunshine Garden video yesterday, I was looking for some clips to put in the middle where I talked about how I like to give little step-by-step help to people who are gardening. And I found, here's some cows, here's some rabbits, here's our chickens, and I was just looking at that, and I thought, I can't believe it. It seems like it's not been long ago that I didn't know how to do any of this. And I walk outside and I'm surrounded by all of our animals. Oh, we have an orchard too. I don't think we've mentioned that.
No,
we have an orchard between the gardens. So our farm, Plan B, BEE, orchard and farm, we do have an orchard now with peach trees, apple trees, pear trees, peach, apple, pears. Anything else? I think that's all right now. So I think we've got all the things. Now I just need to keep working on systems to make it manageable. We're both over 50. Well, I shouldn't say that. My husband's not quite 50 yet. He has a birthday coming up, but we're heading into our 50s. And even though, we're moderately healthy, things, the work isn't going to get any easier unless we put systems in place. So I think we're just going to work on improving our systems to help the farm run itself. I saw a question in the comments. Chrissy asks whether we still get flooded in. Yes, we do. As long as it continues to rain in Missouri, we will get flooded in. There are 2 creeks that run through our property. One runs right through the middle before the rocky hillside, and one runs along the edge, and where they meet together and then they join. And both the roads going out of our house cross those creeks. And if the creek is high, we can get around the corner out a different way. But if the creek comes up on the road, we can't get out. So that probably still happens. But we've never had water in the house, not even close. Even when we had the 100-year flood like 2 years ago, it did not come up that high. So the houses are fine. So we just, we get an unexpected day off when we have that kind of rain. And it usually goes down in a day or two. And if it tears up the dirt road real bad, somebody with a tractor usually fixes that pretty quickly. So,
well, you mentioned you had a storm cellar in your house.
Yes.
Have you ever
so
had
not
to, have you had to use it? Have you had to use it?
We have gone in it, I think, twice in the time that we've been here. And there wasn't any, we didn't have any damage. We did have a wind strong enough to flip our pig house over once, but our house is built nice and strong. My mom's house is nice and strong. We've had limbs come down off of trees. We've lost power, but we haven't ever had damage where the storm shelter was, where we could say it saved our lives. But it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have
absolutely. And I'm glad you have it, but I just didn't know if there was a story there that waiting to come out, or so I figured I'd ask. That's something that in our area anyway, I'm not there isn't around here, but I have been in areas where it is a common occurrence to have the storm cellars, underground areas that one retreats to when the weather gets a little misbehaving.
Right. So ours is made of those styrofoam forms that they pour concrete in that are about 12 inches.
Yep.
It's got a foundation about 4 foot deep under that section of the house. And then it's got the concrete block walls, and then it has a concrete ceiling with doors.
I think those are IBC forms, maybe. Is that right?
You're probably right. And they also have rebar down inside them to reinforce them. So it's a pretty strong little spot. But fortunately, we haven't ever had a tornado hit the house or anything. I mean, that would be devastating, I'm sure.
Okay,
So
the creeks on your property, do these flow year round, or are they just storm runoff?
They're year round, but they get really low. So when they're right now, they're about 20 feet wide, and they'll get down to just narrow little streams a couple feet wide that, and yay deep.
I didn't know if you had a fishing source there on your property or not.
People do fish out of those creeks, but I think they just get little bluegills.
Well, that's good eating. That's good eating. You just got to catch a lot of them. So,
yeah.
What's the biggest thing you miss about Los Angeles area?
Friends. The friends that we left behind, I think, would probably be the only thing I really miss. I mean, it was nice weather. On these days when, I can go outside at 8 a.m. to do morning chores and already be dripping sweat because Missouri is very, very humid. I kind of miss California weather, but I really don't miss it at all. I really am very content where I am.
Great.
Miss people today's world with Facebook and Instagram and cell phones. You can keep up with people pretty easily anywhere you are.
Okay. Well, I know that that our moderators have been putting up your channel here on the chat. I'm guessing maybe they have for Facebook as well. It's been very, very interesting. Been very interesting. So
Thanks for having me.
What's your next 5-year plan here? What are you gonna do? Where are you gonna be in 5 years? You gonna have a longer name, a shorter name?
I don't think we're gonna change the name any. I think we'll leave it. I don't know that I'm gonna become just Lorella like Cher. I think I'm just gonna work on honing in the skills. Oh, canning, preserving. I right now I only freeze is the only preserving I do. So building an in-home pantry, food stores of our own food, that would be high on my list. Also developing like a CSA. I kind of have a small CSA with my egg customers, but really developing more income on farm so that I can not have to work off farm so much. That would be great. So I think those are two goals I have for the upcoming years.
Okay. Any last thoughts you'd like to leave the folks out there? I wish we had 5,000 people out here in the chat, but we don't. I'm sorry.
That's okay. It happens. It's summer. It's fine. And no phone calls, which is interesting because last time the phones were ringing off the hook, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I just want to say thanks to everybody who took the time to come in tonight and hang out in the chat room. I had a lot of fun talking to you guys, and I guess that's it. I thought I had another thought, but it was gone before I got it out of my mouth.
Lorella,
it's kind of like that.
Lorella, if you would stay in touch, I would. I'm hoping that you can make it to the Life Conference. Love to meet you in person. We're going to be there. And my comment for everybody out there: do something today that makes tomorrow better than yesterday. So everybody have a wonderful evening. Take care. Thanks for being here, and we will see you all next week. Scheduled Art and Bree. So we have the final mail out to them, and I know they've had some issues, so we'll just have to wait and see what's going on with them. Thanks for being here, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye. Special thanks to the moderators. Special thanks to our channel members. If you want to join Smudge's Pack, hit the join button below. Take care. Bye-bye, folks.